Welcome back to the Data Protection Diaries. Welcome back to the vlog. Finally, we are in the new office. As you can see, I no longer have the large sign behind me, but I have got a small sign. We'll try the vlog here. Might try it down the other end of the office. I don't know. The last time I filmed this, the camera was pointing the wrong way. So either way, this is going to be an improvement. If you are new to the channel, thank you very much for joining us. Please do make sure that you subscribe, hit like on this video as well if you enjoy this content. Of course, if you're not new, welcome back. Please do make sure that you like this video, comment down below, do all of those good things that the YouTube algorithm enjoys. But for now, let's get on with the video. So today, what I want to be talking about is dealing with customer complaints under the GDPR. So anything really to do with the processing of personal data and the kind of complaints that organizations see as a result of those kind of activities and results of that kind of processing. The reason that I want to touch on this is because as a company, as a consultancy, as iStorm, we get a lot of our clients, certainly through our DPO service, sending us their customer complaints, asking how to respond to a particular complaint. And often they feel almost personally attacked by the nature of the complaint or the way the complaint has been written. They struggle to find a way to respond, or sometimes they actually end up making the complaint worse by not giving an appropriate response, giving too much information, not giving enough information, not being clear enough. And actually those are the kinds of things that can make dealing with a complaint much more challenging. So what are we talking about when we're talking about complaints? So as I've already said, we're talking about complaints under the GDPR. So of course, a complaint in relation to the way in which an organization has been processing somebody's personal data. The common ones are, of course, if somebody has received some marketing material, they've received marketing content that they either haven't subscribed to, so they haven't previously given permissions to, or they weren't expecting to receive. That's obviously a very common one. Other ones could be around who provided the information to the organization, challenges around the way information is being stored, the way information is being processed, or even just the context of the information and the accuracy of that information. If you're watching this and you're watching this from a company perspective, no doubt you've probably at least experienced something around marketing, or sometimes a complaint in relation to a subject access request. And if you're watching this from an individual perspective, then you may be the one making that complaint. So you may have had to challenge somebody about the way your information is being used. This video, we are going to be looking at the commercial response to a complaint. So from a company perspective, from the organization's perspective, how do you deal with that? Now, the first thing to do, and this is probably the most important thing, is to remove any emotion from that situation. It can sometimes feel like it's a bit of a personal attack on your organization. Sometimes the way complaints are written by their very nature can feel quite harsh, can feel quite firm, can feel quite strong. And very often, especially in complaints with GDPR and data protection, they tend to come with a lot of sort of oomph, I suppose. So they come citing articles, they come citing recitals. They'll often say at the bottom that if this is not dealt with to a satisfactory fashion, I will be reporting you to the ICO. Now, those kind of statements, that kind of terminology, certainly for smaller businesses that don't have a lot of in-house resource, that don't have a lot of experience, can really put the wind up people. It can make organizations panic. It can put organizations on the back foot. Now, not being cynical, but generally if you're going to make a complaint and you want to make a bit of a splash, that is really your intention. Your intention is to to create fear, to create a sense of urgency, to be able to drive home your point. But if you're dealing with a complaint, if that complaint is coming to you, then that's exactly what you want to try and avoid. And that's why it's important, first off, to remove any personal attachment to the complaint, remove any kind of emotional attachment to that, and look at it from a purely commercial perspective. So this complaint isn't about you. It's about the way in which information was processed. It's about the way in which information has been used. So the next thing that you need to do is look at the particular concerns that have been raised in that complaint. Now, again, by taking out the emotion and taking out that kind of personal response, you're going to get away from the, we do everything we possibly can, like this should never have happened. You know, these are all the different things that we do. At this point, that's not important. At this point, what's important is that you address the complaint in hand. So the first thing to do is identify exactly what the issue is. If it was, for instance, sending somebody marketing when they hadn't signed up to it or don't believe that they'd signed up to it, go and find the information that would explain how that happened. Was there a fair processing notice? Had they consented to something? Was that information clear? Was it appropriately given? And relay that information back to the complainant. It's important at this point that you stick to the facts. We're not talking about opinions. We're not talking about how you've viewed something or how something was intended. It's how that information has been presented to that individual. Was it clear? Was it fair? Was it obvious? If it was obvious and they've clicked a button, they've clicked a selection to say, yes, please market me, then make that clear. Obviously make it clear when it was done, the issue is resolved. If it wasn't clear, make it clear that you've checked that you understand that, obviously apologize for the error. We can look into rectifying that. Again, stick to the facts. We're trying to remove any kind of emotion from these responses. The other thing that you'll probably come across when you're dealing with these kind of consumer complaints is that some people, not all people, some people will start to ask you for a lot more information. So once you have provided your response, let's say you've provided your response around legitimate interests and you have provided them with what your legitimate business interest is for processing that information, they may ask to see your LIA. They may ask to see your legitimate interest assessment. They may ask to see your data protection impact assessment. While it is good practice to publicly make those things available, certainly in the context of a DPIA, you are not obliged to provide that information to somebody just because they ask for it. Now, I'm not saying don't. That is up to you. It's up to you and your organization, but do not feel pressured or forced into providing information that you are not comfortable with providing. Of course, if it's the regulator asking and the regulator's got a complaint, obviously make sure that you're providing that information. It is a completely different context, but here we are talking about consumers, we are talking about individuals. Very often we see complaints that come through. Somebody either has knowledge of the regulation or they have access to tools that have given them templates, that have given them template letters, template complaints, and they're asking for certain things. As I'm saying, concentrate on the nature of the complaint, stick to the facts, don't feel pressured or pushed into providing additional information, because very often that can be where you're starting to cause problems. You're starting to try and address something by providing information about something else. Things start to get barrel rolled. Things can get confusing. The complainant gets confused. You get confused. And all of a sudden you've lost what the original purpose of the complaint was, and you've just created an issue for everyone. The final, probably most important thing to remember when you're dealing with complaints coming in under the regulation is customer service. At the end of the day, whether or not you have done something right or whether or not you have done something wrong, there's a complaint. Somebody has an issue, somebody has taken it upon themselves to bring that issue to you. Now, we live in a world where Bad news travels a lot faster than good news. That is just an unfortunate truth. It's something, that's come from having the internet. It's something that's come from having information freely available and being able to, fire off a comment on Twitter, fire off something on LinkedIn. Now, I am not suggesting in the slightest that you pander to complaints. I'm not suggesting in the slightest that you pay people to go away because they feel that the marketing email that they've received has caused them harm, because it very likely hasn't. Never feel pressured into giving somebody compensation. Never feel pressured into giving somebody more information than they need, but don't be rude. Stick to the facts, stick to the issue at hand, deal with it in a polite, adult, commercially friendly fashion, and you will find that you're dealing with complaints a lot quicker and a lot easier, and you're much less likely to get any kickback either from the complaint moving forwards or from any kind of further interaction on social media. The crux of all of this is if you are doing things properly, you are processing information in the correct way, following the regulation, you are treating people's information with respect, you are unlikely to get a lot of complaints. But when you do get a complaint, which inevitably people do because things do go wrong, don't panic, take the emotion out of it, stick to the facts, deliver good customer service, and don't feel pressured into doing something or responding in a way that you don't feel comfortable with, and you'll find that it's a much less painful process than maybe you think it's going to be. As always, this is a fairly succinct view on the issue. This is my view. This is just the way that I tend to approach things. I'd love to know your comments, love to know your thoughts. Do you deal with complaints? Do you struggle with them? How do you respond? Please do pop your comments and thoughts down below. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, do all those wonderful things. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.